So what are we going to talk about today? How about we talk about FEMA's 50% rule and we explain it. We'll try to keep it as simple as possible. For all those wondering what the heck is this 50% rule, but as you know, Florida got hit with Hurricane Ian. And this 50% rule has been flying around all over from Collier to Lee to Charlotte County, and people really are confused as to what they need to do or what to expect. So welcome everybody. My name is Mike Keeler. I'm a licensed public adjuster in the state of Florida. Here's my contact information if you have a question, need help with a claim. So we're going to try to keep this very simple. The 50% rule, if you have your value of the building only, and we're going to share something more and go over this. The value of the building only, not the land. Your house, if you went to sell it, may be worth $1.8 million, but your house alone might only be worth $300,000. You take 50% of that, so that'd be $150,000. If you go past that $150,000, you are now in violation, or I should say, you have now exceeded. It's not really a violation, if you will. Exceeded the 50% rule. So you have to build up the code, or if it was due to flood, you've got to elevate your house to updated flood elevation levels. We're going to get more into this. Okay, so let's take a look at this article. FEMA's 50% rule could make it more expensive for homeowners to rebuild. All right, so let's talk about this. The federal rule prohibits improvements to hurricane-damaged homes exceeding 50% of the market value unless the entire structure is updated to meet current building codes. We'll get into this. Let's bookmark that. All right. The 50% rule, as part of National Flood Insurance, mandates that if home incurs substantial damage, determine when repair costs total exceed 50% of the property's market value, it must be brought up to current building codes and floodplain regulations. All right. Now, a little bit further. Basically, if you had to tear down a house or rebuild it up higher, either on stilts or bringing it up in a lot of filled dirt. Okay. That's one way on how you can elevate the house if it's affected by flood. And again, we're going to bookmark that. So let's get into this other article that I had. I think it's this one. Okay. So as you can see here, we talk about it again. The 50% rule applies to homes and other structures where their lowest floor is below the 100-year flood elevation. Okay? At its most basic, under the 50% FEMA rule, if an improvement is substantially damaged or substantially improved, it must be brought up to compliance with the flood damage prevention regulations, including elevating the building to or above the 100-year flood elevation. Substantial damage, let's define that. Damage of any origin sustained by structure where the cost of restoring the structure before its damage would equal or exceed 50% of the market value, or replacement cost of the structure before the damage incurred. Okay? So here's something else. Costs that don't count towards a 50% rule. Plans, specifications, building permits, driveways, pools, seawalls. So that's just a brief run through. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Okay, so let's talk about this 50% rule in a little bit greater detail. I'm going to share some thoughts, and I think probably some questions that we just don't know yet. I think a lot of us initially thought that the 50% rule only was geared towards flood. And then we find out, no, it's actually geared towards any type of damage, right? So if you only had wind damage. So it's really, I don't want to say it's not that big of a deal if you didn't have flood. But let's take both scenarios. Let's start with wind. So all it really causes you to do is to build up to the building code. Okay? So what does that entail? Well, it actually could be a benefit. And let me explain the reasons why. So in your policy, you have coverage A dwelling, and you have a certain amount of coverage. But you also have, more than likely, law or ordinance, or sometimes the words are reversed, ordinance or law. Could be 25% usually of whatever your coverage A dwelling is. So what could you potentially need to do to bring it up to code? Well, windows, impact windows, okay, garage door, hurricane proof, things involving your roof, could be electrical. All this stuff, all these items now, you can actually pull away from coverage A dwelling and you place it underneath ordinance or law. So for those that have substantial amount of damage, what it's going to do is give you more availability to put damages under coverage A, especially if you had a smaller policy or a policy of a few $100,000 and your damages exceed that, and then utilize law or ordinance for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. So this could benefit people in a way. Now let's take flood. So the whole purpose of the FEMA flood 50% rule, which is we all thought took place, the caveat here is if you don't raise your house to the elevated, there could be some issues, and there could also be some issues if later on you experience a flood. So let's say you had a flood from Hurricane Ian in September of 2022. You got flood money. Even though you did the repairs, you did the putting back and replacing things and whatever else you did, the flood money. If some people didn't use that flood money and then there was another flood, guess what would happen? You have to prove that you fixed it. If you didn't fix it, FEMA won't give you any money because they'll look back to the prior claim. All right? So part of it, the bringing up the code the FEMA wants you to do is elevate your house. It's not cheap. It's not cheap depending where you live, how your house is constructed. You may not be able to. You just might not be able to. So what we don't know is how are they going to determine every county, whether it's Collier, Lee, Charlotte, etc., how are the county officials, the building department people, going to know if you're beyond the 50%? That's what we don't know yet. It's going to be interesting to find out. We're 4 months into it, and 80% of people still haven't been paid by the insurance companies. So once people start rebuilding, get their money, I don't know how much longer it's going to be. But obviously from what we see, and if you drive around and you see tarps, you'll find some roofers working on and putting on a new roof here and there. But for the most part, you know who hasn't been paid by the insurance company. Even those people that are getting roofs put on, they could be taking the initial payment that the insurance companies pay, which was $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, even though your claim might be worth $100,000. So people are taking that money and putting it towards a new roof right away. Because before you can build inside, you've got to put a new roof on. So all this we're going to find out a little bit more as we start going into it as to how they're going to enforce a 50% rule, because we just don't know. It's going to be interesting. So my name's Mike Keeler. I'm a licensed public adjuster in the state of Florida. The name of the company is the Claim Squad Public Adjusters. If you have any questions, need help with the claim, here's how you can get a hold of me. Thanks for watching this video.